Captain Jake Morrison sat in his command chair on the bridge of the UFS Explorer. The ship was 3 days into what should have been a simple mapping mission. They were supposed to chart new star systems in the outer regions of human space. It was quiet work. But Jake liked it that way. No politics, no wars, just him and his crew exploring the unknown. "Captain, we're ready for the next jump," said Lieutenant Amy Brooks from her station. She was young, maybe 25, and this was only her second mission as navigation officer, but she was smart and careful with her work. Jake nodded. "Where?" "To next, Amy? System designation Alpha 47 Delta. Should be about 6 light years from here. The computer says it's empty space, perfect for setting up our scanning equipment." Dr. Ben Carter looked up from his science station. He was older than the rest of them, with gray hair and glasses that made him look like the professor he used to be. "The stellar readings should be interesting there. We might find some unusual formations." Commander Lisa Grant stood near the tactical station. She was Jake's second in command and the most experienced officer on the ship. "All systems show green, Captain. We're ready when you are." Jake looked around the bridge. His crew was small, but good. The UFS Explorer wasn't a warship. It was a research vessel with basic shields and a few defensive weapons. Most of their space was filled with scientific equipment and laboratories. They had a crew of 43 people, including scientists, engineers, and support staff. "All right, Amy, take us out." Amy's fingers moved across her control panel. The navigation computer hummed quietly as it calculated their jump coordinates. Jake watched the main screen show their current position and their destination. Everything looked normal. "Jump in 10 seconds, Amy announced. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The stars on the main screen suddenly stretched into lines of light. Jake felt the familiar slight pressure in his stomach as the ship entered hyperspace. The journey would take about 30 minutes. Jake relaxed in his chair. These routine jumps had become second nature to him after 15 years in space. He closed his eyes and thought about the report he would need to write when they got back. To Earth. "Captain," Amy's voice was tight with worry. "I'm getting some strange readings from the navigation computer." Jake opened his eyes. "What kind of readings?" "The stellar positions don't match what we expected. It looks like we might have jumped farther than planned." Ben looked at his instruments. "That's odd. I'm picking up a lot more star activity than there should be in this region." Lisa moved to Amy's station. "How far off are we?" Amy's face went pale as she checked her calculations. "Captain, I think I made an error. A big one." Jake stood up and walked over to her station. "Show me." Amy brought up the navigation display. Instead of the empty space they expected, the screen showed dozens of ships scattered around them. Big ships. Ships that definitely weren't human. "Those aren't ours," Lisa said quietly. Before anyone could respond, the communication system started, buzzing with incoming signals. The main screen flickered and showed what looked like a massive alien ship, easily 10 times the size of the Explorer. Ben adjusted his instruments. "Captain, I'm reading at least 20 ships in the immediate area. They're all much larger than us." The alien ship on the screen suddenly accelerated away from them at incredible speed. Then another ship appeared on their sensors, and it too raced away as fast as it could move. "Are they running from us?" Amy asked, confused. Lisa checked her. "Tactical display." "It looks like it. Captain, they're broadcasting something, but it's not in any language our computer recognizes." Jake stared at the screen. In his 15 years of space exploration, he had never encountered alien life. Humans had always wondered if they were alone in the universe. Now he was looking at proof that they weren't, and the aliens were fleeing like they had seen a monster. "Amy, where exactly are we?" Amy's fingers shook as she rechecked her calculations. "According to these readings, we're about 15 parsecs from where we're supposed to be. We're in a region marked as unknown on our charts. Another alien ship appeared on their sensors, took one look at them, and immediately jumped away at faster than light speed." "Captain," Ben said, his voice full of amazement. I'm detecting energy signatures from at least 50 different ships in this general area. They're all moving away from us as fast as they can. Lisa frowned at her tactical display. This doesn't make sense. Our ship isn't exactly intimidating. We have basic shields and a few small defensive weapons. Any one of those ships could probably destroy us without much trouble. Jake watched as more alien ships appeared on their long-range sensors, only to disappear again moments later. It was like they were toxic or something worse. Captain, Amy said quietly, I'm really sorry. I must have entered the wrong coordinates into the navigation computer. I double-checked everything, but somehow I made a mistake. Jake put his hand on her shoulder. Mistakes happen, Amy. Right now, we need to figure out where we are and how to get home. The communication system buzzed again. This time, instead of an alien ship, they heard what sounded like an automated message repeating over and over in a language they couldn't understand. Ben worked at his station, trying to analyze the signal. It sounds like some kind of warning or alert. The same message keeps repeating on multiple frequencies. Can you translate it? Not yet, but I'm recording everything. Maybe we can figure it out later. Lisa looked at the tactical display with growing concern. Captain, I'm detecting some very large ships moving into this area. They're much bigger than the ones that ran away. Jake turned to the main screen. In the distance, he could see massive shapes approaching. They were still far away, but even at this distance, he could tell they were enormous. How big are we talking about? The largest one is reading at about 5 kilometers long. It's bigger than anything humans have ever built. Amy checked her instruments again. Captain, I think I know what happened. When I calculated our jump, I accidentally added an extra digit to one of the coordinates. Instead of jumping 6 light years, we jumped 60. Jake felt his stomach drop. 60 light years? Amy, that puts us completely outside of human space. No, sir. I'm really sorry. The alien message on the communication system suddenly stopped. The silence felt heavy and dangerous. Ben looked up from his station with wide eyes. Captain, those big ships that were approaching, they just changed course. They're moving away from us, too. Jake stared at the main screen. Whatever was happening, it was clear that their presence here was causing some kind of panic among the aliens. The question was why? What could possibly make advanced alien civilizations with huge warships afraid of one small human research vessel? Lisa, set us to condition yellow. Amy, start working on getting us home. Ben, keep recording everything. I have a feeling we're going to need to explain this to a lot of people when we get back. As if to emphasize his point, more alien ships appeared on their sensors and immediately jumped away. The UFS Explorer sat alone in space, surrounded by the aftermath of what looked like a massive evacuation. Jake had wanted a quiet mapping mission. Instead, he had stumbled into something much bigger and far more complicated than he could have imagined. The Liberty Star moved through space at maximum speed. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge watching the sensors as they got closer to the strange signal. The energy readings were getting stronger, but they still could not see what was sending them. How much longer? Jake asked. 2 hours at current speed, replied Navigation Officer Carl Adams. But Captain, the readings are getting weird. Whatever is out there, it is big. Chief Engineer Lisa Bennett's voice came through the comm system from the engine room. Captain, I am pushing the engines hard. We can maintain this speed for another 3 hours, but then I need to slow down for maintenance. Understood, Jake said. Keep pushing for now. Communications Officer Amy Rodriguez was still working on the signal. She had headphones on and was making notes on her tablet. Captain, I think I figured out part of the message. It is definitely mathematical. Prime numbers, then some kind of geometric patterns. Someone trying to prove they are intelligent, said Security Chief Tony. Walker, standard first contact protocol in most science fiction stories. Jake nodded. Can you send a response? Already working on it, Amy said. Sending back the same mathematical patterns, but in reverse order. If they are smart, they will know. We understand. Meanwhile, aboard the Crystal Dawn, Communications Officer Telmar was staring at his screen in shock. Commander, the signal just changed. Someone answered us. Commander Zara Kethvani rushed to his station. What do you mean, answered? They sent back our mathematical sequence, but backwards. Someone out there understood what we were trying to say. Science Officer Dralzeth looked skeptical. Impossible. We are in the middle of nowhere. No Velinari ships come to this region. Then who is it? Asked Engineer Morquin. Zara studied the readings. Long-range sensors show a ship approaching. Small vessel, maybe 1/10 our size. First Officer Gentar frowned. No Velinari ship is that small, not for deep space travel. Could it be another species? Zara wondered aloud. The bridge fell silent. The Velinari knew about other intelligent species in the galaxy, but they rarely interacted with them. Most other races were considered primitive by Velinari standards. The idea that one of them might rescue the Crystal Dawn was almost embarrassing. Commander, said Dralseth carefully, perhaps we should not respond further. If this is some primitive species, accepting their help could damage our reputation. Zara looked around at her crew. Half of them were nodding in agreement. The Velinari had their pride. They were supposed to be the most advanced civilization in the galaxy. Being rescued by primitives would be shameful, but then she looked at the life support readings. 8 days left, maybe less. Keep sending signals, she ordered. Whoever they are our only hope. As the hours passed, both ships got closer. The humans were amazed by what their sensors were showing them. The alien ship was huge, maybe a kilometer long, and it seemed to be made of some kind of crystal, material that sparkled even in the darkness of space. Beautiful, whispered Dr. Nina Foster, who had come to the bridge to see the alien vessel. Like a floating palace. Also completely dead in the water, observed Lisa Bennett, studying the energy readings. Whatever happened to them, their main power source is offline. Jake turned to Tony Walker. What do you think? Any signs of weapons? Tony studied his tactical display. Hard to tell. The ship design is so different from ours. But I am not seeing any obvious weapon ports or missile launchers. Could be hidden, Carl pointed out. Could be, Jake agreed. But if they wanted to hurt us, they probably would not be sending math problems. Amy looked up from her station. Captain, I am getting more complex signals now. Looks like they are trying to send us pictures or diagrams. Put it on the main screen. The bridge display filled with strange symbols and drawings. Some looked like star charts. Others might have been technical diagrams. But in the middle was something that made everyone stop and stare. Are those people? Asked Dr. Foster. The image showed tall, thin figures with blue skin and large eyes. They were clearly not human, but they looked intelligent and peaceful. Aliens, breathed Carl. Real aliens. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. First contact with an alien species was supposed to be handled by trained diplomats and scientists, not a cargo ship captain and his crew. But here they were, and the aliens needed help. Amy, can you send them pictures of us? Working on it, Captain. Meanwhile, on the Crystal Dawn, the crew was having their own moment of shock. The alien ship had sent them images in return, showing strange creatures with pale skin and small eyes. They looked primitive and weak compared to the elegant Velinari. They are so ugly, whispered one of the junior officers. Quiet, ordered Zara. But she had to admit the aliens did look strange, short and thick, with tiny eyes and flat faces, nothing like the graceful Velinari form. Commander, said Dralzeth, surely we cannot accept help from such primitive beings. Look at their ship. It appears to be made of metal and plastic. How crude. Their ship is still moving, Morquin pointed out. Ours is not. The debate continued, as the two ships got closer. The humans were excited about meeting aliens for the first time. The Velinari were embarrassed about needing help from what they saw as primitives. When the ships were finally close enough for detailed scans, Both crews made surprising discoveries. "Captain," said Lisa, "their technology is incredible. I cannot even figure out how their engines work. The power systems are completely beyond anything we have." At the same time, Engineer Morquin was telling Commander Zara something similar. "Their ship is primitive but functional. Simple nuclear reactors for power, chemical rockets for maneuvering. But, Commander, there is something interesting. Their ship appears to be more reliable than ours." "What do you mean?" "No system failures. No error messages. Everything is working perfectly, even though the technology is thousands of years behind ours." Jake was thinking about the same thing. His ship was held together with spare parts and constant repairs, but it kept working. The alien ship was clearly more advanced than anything humans had ever built, but it was broken and drifting. "Amy, try to establish real communication. We need to figure out what they need." "Working on it, Captain. I think I can set up a basic translation program using their mathematical signals." As Amy worked, Jake made a decision that would change everything. He opened a channel to the alien ship and spoke slowly and clearly. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the human vessel Liberty Star. We received your distress signal. Do you need assistance?" On the Crystal Dawn, Telmar worked frantically to translate the message. When he figured it out, he looked up at Commander Zara with wide eyes. "They are offering to help us." Zara looked around at her crew. Some looked hopeful, others looked ashamed. All of them were running out of time. "Tell them yes," she said quietly. "We accept their assistance." The first words between humans and Velinari had been spoken. Neither species knew it yet, but this moment would reshape the entire galaxy. Commander Zara Kethvani felt the ship shake around her as sparks flew from the control panels. The Crystal Dawn had been the pride of the Velinari fleet just minutes ago. Now red warning lights flashed everywhere and alarms screamed through the air. "Report!" she called out to her crew of 12 as she gripped her command chair. "The quantum drive is failing," shouted Engineer Morquin from his station. His blue skin had turned pale with fear. "Something went wrong when we tried to jump out of the nebula. The whole system is overloading." Zara watched her screens fill with error messages. The Velinari had traveled the stars for thousands of years. Their technology was the most advanced in the galaxy. Yet here they were, stuck in the middle of nowhere with their perfect machines breaking down. "Can you fix it?" she asked. Morquin shook his head. "The damage is too bad. We need parts from a star base. The drive is dead." First Officer Gentar stepped closer to Zara. His voice was quiet but firm. "Commander, you know what this means. We are in the Crimson Nebula. No one comes here. No rescue ships will find us." Zara knew he was right. The Crimson Nebula was a dangerous place filled with radiation and strange energy fields. Most ships avoided it completely. The Crystal Dawn had only come here to study some unusual readings. Now those same energy fields were blocking their distress signals. "How long do we have?" she asked. Science Officer Dralseth checked his instruments. "Life. Support will last maybe 10 days. Less if we keep all systems running. Send out a distress beacon on all frequencies," Zara ordered. "Already tried," said Communications Officer Telmar. "The nebula is blocking everything. Even our strongest transmitters cannot get through." The bridge fell silent, except for the constant beeping of alarms. Zara looked at her crew. These were the best officers in the Velinari fleet. They had explored dozens of worlds together. Now they all looked scared. "There must be something we can do," she said. Gentar stepped forward again. "Commander, perhaps it is time to consider the final option. Our people have always believed that an honorable death is better than slow suffering." Several crew members nodded. The Velinari had strict traditions about these things. When death was certain, it was considered noble to end things quickly rather than wait helplessly. But Zara was not ready to give up. "No, we keep trying. Keep sending the beacon. Keep working on repairs. We do not surrender while we still breathe." Gentar looked unhappy but said nothing more. The crew went back to their stations, though Zara could see the doubt in their eyes. Hours passed. The ship grew colder as they shut down non-essential systems to save power. The crew worked frantically, but nothing helped. The quantum drive was completely destroyed. Without it, they could not travel faster than light. Even at maximum normal speed, it would take years to reach the nearest star system. Meanwhile, far away from the dying Velinari ship, Captain Jake Morrison was having a much better day. The Liberty Star was a simple cargo vessel, nothing fancy, like the alien ships he sometimes heard about. But she was reliable, and her crew of 11 knew their jobs well. Jake was reviewing supply lists in his cabin when Chief Engineer Lisa Bennett called him to the bridge. "Captain, you need to see this," she said over the comm system. Jake made his way to the bridge, where he found Lisa standing next to the sensor station. Navigation Officer Carl Adams was studying the readings with a confused look on his face. "What have you got?" Jake asked. "Unknown energy signature," Lisa replied. "About 3 light hours away, near the edge of the Crimson Nebula." Carl pointed to his screen. "It looks like some kind of distress signal, but the pattern is all wrong. Not like anything in our databases." Jake studied the readings. He had been a military officer before becoming a merchant captain. He knew what human distress signals looked like. This was something else entirely. "Could be a trap," said security, Chief Tony Walker, who had just arrived on the bridge. "Pirates sometimes use fake distress calls to lure ships into ambushes." "In the Crimson Nebula?" Jake shook his head. "No pirate would hide there. Too dangerous." Communications Officer Amy Rodriguez was trying to clean up the signal. "Captain, I'm getting some kind of repeating pattern. Mathematical sequences, I think. Someone is definitely trying to communicate." Jake thought about it. They were carrying medical supplies and food to the outer colonies. The delivery was not urgent, and they had fuel to spare, but regulations said that first contact with alien species should be handled by trained diplomats, not cargo captains. "Sir?" Carl was waiting for orders. Jake looked around at his crew. These were good people who had been with him for years. They trusted his judgment, and somewhere out there someone needed help. "Set course for the signal," he decided. "Maximum speed." Tony frowned. "Captain, are you sure about this? We do not know what we are dealing with." "Someone is in trouble," Jake said simply. "We help people in trouble. That is what humans do." Lisa nodded and headed for the engine room. "I will push the engines as hard as I can." As the Liberty Star changed course toward the mysterious signal, Jake hoped he was making the right choice. His ship was not equipped for combat or first contact situations. They were just ordinary people carrying ordinary cargo through space. But Jake had learned something during his years in the military. Sometimes ordinary people had to do extraordinary things. Sometimes helping others meant taking risks. And sometimes the right thing to do was also the most dangerous thing to do. The Liberty Star raced through space toward the Crimson Nebula, while its crew prepared for whatever they might find. Behind them, their normal cargo run continued without them. Ahead of them, an alien crew counted down their final hours of life. Neither ship knew that this meeting would change everything. The galaxy was about to learn something new about the young human species. And the humans were about to discover that their greatest strength was not their technology or their weapons, but their simple refusal to leave others behind. In the depths of space, 2 very different crews moved toward a destiny that neither could imagine. One was dying slowly in the most advanced ship their civilization had ever built. The other was racing to help in a simple cargo vessel held together by spare parts and determination. The universe was about to witness something remarkable. Dr. Susan White sat at her workstation on the UFS Explorer, listening to the alien communications they had intercepted. Her job as xenopsychologist was to understand how other species thought and behaved. Right now, she was completely confused. by what she was hearing. "Captain Morrison, you need to hear this," she called out. Jake walked over to her station. "What did you find, Susan?" "I've been running the alien language through our translation computer. It's starting to make sense of their basic words." Susan played back one of the recordings. "Listen to this." The computer's voice spoke in flat, mechanical English. "Warning all ships. Deathbringers have arrived. Sector evacuation ordered immediately. Do not engage the soul devourers." Jake stared at the speaker. "Soul devourers? Are they talking about us?" "It gets worse," Susan said. She played another message. "Human war vessel detected. Estimated crew of immortal warriors. Retreat to safe distance of minimum 50 light years." Commander Rick Hayes looked up from his station where he had been studying military history files. "Captain, I think I might know what's happening here." "Explain," Jake said. Rick brought up some old files on his screen. "I've been looking through our historical databases about first contact protocols, but I found something interesting in the piracy reports from about 80 years ago." Dr. Ben Carter joined them. "Piracy reports?" "Yes. Around 2185, there were several incidents where human smugglers and pirates operated in the outer regions of space. They used old converted cargo ships with basic weapons." Susan nodded slowly. "And they encountered alien vessels. According to these reports, a group of human pirates led by someone named Captain Pete Johnson attacked several alien trading ships. The aliens had much better technology, but the humans won anyway." Jake frowned. "How?" "The reports say the humans used unusual tactics. They rammed enemy ships, used explosive devices manually placed on hull breaches, and fought even when their own ships were heavily damaged. The alien crews had never seen anything like it." Susan played back another intercepted message. The computer translated, "Human vessels do not follow standard combat protocols. They continue fighting even when logically defeated. Recommend avoiding all contact." "That sounds like it could be describing those old pirate encounters," Ben said. Rick nodded. "Here's the interesting part. After those incidents, the alien ships that survived apparently spread stories about human combat abilities. But you know how stories get exaggerated over time." Susan brought up more translations. "Listen to this one. Human warriors require no food or rest. Their vessels are powered by the rage of their crew. Standard weapons have no effect." Jake almost laughed. "That's ridiculous. We eat sandwiches and drink coffee just like anyone else." "But the aliens don't know that," Susan pointed out. "They've probably been telling these stories for decades. Each time the story gets retold, it gets more dramatic." Ben checked his scientific instruments. "I'm still detecting alien ships all around us, but they're staying at least 20 light years away. Whatever they think we are, they're terrified of us." Rick pulled up more historical files. "Look at this. There are reports of human traders who were incredibly stubborn in negotiations. They would refuse deals that other species considered generous. The aliens thought it was because humans had unlimited resources to fall back on." "Or this one," Susan added, reading from her translations. "A human vessel once traveled for 6 months to complete a delivery contract even after their cargo was damaged by a solar storm. The alien recipients were amazed that humans would honor such a small deal." Jake was beginning to understand. "So the aliens think we're either incredibly powerful or completely crazy." "Maybe both," Susan said. "Listen to this message I just intercepted. Human psychology is incomprehensible. They make decisions based on unknown factors. Recommend treating them as highly dangerous unknowns." Meanwhile, on the other side of the galaxy, Elder Torvosh was giving an emergency lecture to the High Council. The ancient scholar had spent his entire life studying different species, and he was considered the Empire's leading expert on human behavior. "Honored council members," Torvosh began, "the appearance of a human vessel in our space is extremely concerning. Allow me to explain why." The council chamber was filled with representatives from dozens of different alien species. All of them looked worried. Humans are unique among spacefaring species, Torvash continued. They come from what we classify as a death world. Their planet has extreme weather, dangerous animals, and frequent natural disasters. This has shaped their entire culture. A council member from the crystalline species raised her hand. Elder? How dangerous are they exactly? Humans do not surrender, Torvash said simply. In every recorded encounter, they have fought until victory or death. There is no middle ground. Another council member, this one resembling a large bird, spoke up. But surely their technology has limitations. That's what makes them so dangerous, Torvash replied. Human technology is unpredictable. They combine primitive methods with advanced systems in ways that make no sense to us. They build weapons that shouldn't work, but somehow do. Back on the UFS Explorer, Susan was listening to what appeared to be a news broadcast. The computer translated the excited voice of an alien reporter. This is Plex Guy reporting for Galactic News Network. We have confirmed reports of a human invasion fleet entering the Outer Rim territories. Military experts say this could be the beginning of human expansion into Empire space. Invasion fleet? Jake said. We're one research ship. The broadcast continued. Historical analysts remind us that humans have never been successfully defeated in open warfare. Their last major campaign resulted in the complete disappearance of the Kralik Empire. Ben looked up from his research. I've never heard of any Kralik Empire. That's because it doesn't exist anymore, Susan said grimly. According to these alien sources, humans supposedly wiped out an entire civilization about 50 years ago. Rick checked his historical databases. I'm not finding any record of humans fighting anyone called the Kralik Empire. Maybe it happened. Outside of human space, Ben suggested. Or maybe the Kralik Empire was destroyed by something else, and the aliens just assumed it was humans. Susan nodded. That would fit the pattern. Every unexplained disaster, every missing ship, every failed colony gets blamed on humans. We've become the galaxy's boogeyman. The alien broadcast was still going. Military advisors recommend immediate evacuation of all civilian populations within 100 light-years of the human vessel. Standard defensive measures are considered, ineffective against human warfare tactics. Jake sat down heavily in his command chair. So let me get this straight. Decades ago, some human pirates won a few fights against alien traders. Those stories got exaggerated over time until we became legendary monsters. Now, every time something bad happens in space, the aliens assume humans did it. That's about right, Susan confirmed. And our presence here is confirming all their worst fears. Captain, Amy called from her navigation station. I've been working on plotting a course home, but with all these alien ships around us, any movement we make might be interpreted as aggressive. Lisa looked at her tactical display. The aliens are setting up what looks like a containment perimeter around us. They're not attacking, but they're definitely watching our every move. Jake rubbed his forehead. So we're trapped here because a bunch of aliens think we're immortal soul-devouring warriors, and any attempt to leave might trigger a panic that could lead to an actual war. Pretty much, Susan said. The good news is they're too scared to attack us. The bad news is they're also too scared to let us leave. Ben looked up from his instruments with a worried expression. Captain, I'm detecting more ships arriving in the area. Big ones. It looks like they're building up quite a force out there. Jake stared at the main screen, which showed empty space but was surrounded by dozens of invisible alien vessels. Somehow, his simple research mission had turned into the most dangerous first contact situation in human history. And the worst part was, nobody had actually made contact yet. Admiral Kate Stone stood on the bridge of the UFS Defender, watching the tactical display with growing confusion. Her ship was part of a small diplomatic fleet that had been sent to investigate reports of first contact. What she found was dozens of alien vessels surrounding one very familiar human ship. Communications, try to reach the Explorer, she ordered. Admiral, we're getting a response from Captain Morrison. Jake's face appeared on the main screen. He looked tired and stressed. "Admiral Stone, thank goodness you're here. We have a situation." "I can see that, Captain." "Why are there so many alien ships around you? And why aren't they responding to our hails?" "It's complicated, Admiral. They think we're some kind of invasion force. Every time we try to communicate, they either run away or send more ships to watch us." Kate frowned. "Invasion force? Jake, you're flying a research vessel with a crew of 43 people. I know that, and you know that, but they don't seem to know that." Behind Jake, Kate could see Dr. Susan White working frantically at her station. "Admiral," Susan called out, "we've been intercepting their communications. They're calling for military reinforcements from across the sector." Kate turned to her own communications officer. "Are we receiving any alien transmissions?" "Yes, Admiral. Dozens of them. But they're in languages our computer doesn't recognize." On the tactical display, Kate could see more alien ships arriving every hour. Some were massive, easily 5 times the size of her largest vessel. Others were smaller but moved in coordinated groups that suggested military training. "Captain Morrison, what exactly happened here?" Jake explained about Amy's navigation error and their accidental arrival in alien space. As he talked, Kate noticed more ships appearing on her sensors. "Admiral," her tactical officer reported, "I'm counting over 200 alien vessels in this immediate area. More are arriving from multiple directions." President Chen Liu sat in his emergency command center on the planet Nexus Prime. As the elected leader of this sector of the Empire, he was responsible for the safety of over 50 billion people across dozens of worlds. Right now, those people were in a state of panic. "Give me the latest reports," he said to his advisors. "Sir, we now have confirmation of multiple human vessels in our space. Our intelligence suggests this is the advance force for a major invasion." Chen Liu looked at the holographic display showing their entire sector. Red warning symbols covered nearly half of it. "How many ships are we talking about?" "At least 5 human vessels, possibly more. They appear to be conducting detailed reconnaissance of our defensive positions." "What about evacuations?" "Proceeding. As planned, sir. We've successfully evacuated 12 colonies so far, but the commercial shipping lanes are completely shut down, and 3 major trading stations have been abandoned." Chen Liu rubbed his temples. "The economic damage alone would take years to recover from. What do our military advisors recommend?" General Kellenoth stepped forward. "Sir, my analysis suggests we have 2 options. We can attempt to negotiate, or we can prepare for total war." "And the chances of successful negotiation?" "Historical data suggests humans do not negotiate from positions of weakness. Since they have military superiority, any talks would likely result in our unconditional surrender." On the UFS Explorer, Colonel Dan Murphy was getting increasingly frustrated. As the ship's Marine commander, he was responsible for security, but there wasn't much he could do about alien ships that stayed 20 light-years away. "Captain, my men are getting restless," he told Jake. "They keep asking me if we're going to fight our way out of this." "Tell them to stay calm, Dan. We're not fighting anyone." "That's what I keep telling them, sir. But look at this." Dan showed Jake his tactical display. "The aliens have us completely surrounded. If they decided to attack, we wouldn't last 5 minutes. Amy looked up from her navigation station. "Colonel Murphy, I've been listening to the alien communications. I don't think they want to fight us either." "Then why are there so many of them?" Dr. Susan White answered. "Because they're terrified. Every ship that arrives is probably here for protection, not attack." Meanwhile, Admiral Stone was having her own problems. Her diplomatic fleet consisted of 5 ships, including 2 frigates, a cruiser, a supply vessel, and her flagship. To her, it was a small, peaceful force, but to the aliens watching, it looked like military reinforcement. "Admiral," her communications officer reported, "we're detecting massive alien fleet movements throughout this region. It looks like they're mobilizing their entire military." How many ships? Preliminary estimates suggest over 1,000 vessels are either in this area or heading this way. Kate felt a chill run down her spine. 1,000 alien warships would be more than enough to destroy every human ship in this part of space. Mediator Yelesa floated in her specially designed chamber aboard her neutral vessel. As a member of a species that specialized in diplomatic solutions, she had been called in to try to prevent what looked like an impending war. Both sides appear to be preparing for conflict, she observed to her assistant. But neither side has actually fired a weapon. What do you recommend, Mediator? I need to understand what both sides want. The humans appear to be conducting reconnaissance, but they haven't made any aggressive moves. The Empire forces are gathering strength, but they haven't attacked either. Should we attempt contact with both sides? Carefully. Any mistake could trigger the very war we're trying to prevent. Back on the UFS Defender, Admiral Stone was reviewing intelligence reports when her tactical officer called out with alarm. Admiral, we have a problem. The aliens just deployed what looks like siege equipment around our position. Kate looked at the display. Massive alien constructs were being positioned at strategic points around the human ships. They looked like weapon platforms designed to contain rather than destroy. It looks like they're trying to trap us here, her tactical officer continued. Kate opened a channel to the Explorer. Captain Morrison, are you seeing this? Yes, Admiral. Dr. White thinks it's some kind of containment system. They're not trying to destroy us, but they definitely don't want us to leave. Colonel Murphy's voice came over the communication system. Admiral, I just finished a routine training exercise with my Marines. Basic combat drills, nothing special, but the aliens went crazy. Their ship movements became much more aggressive. Susan looked up from her translations. They probably interpreted our training as preparation for battle. Kate realized how serious their situation had become. So let me understand this. The aliens think we're an invasion force. Every ship we send here looks like military reinforcement to them. Every routine activity we perform looks like preparation for war. That's correct, Admiral, Jake replied. And the more scared they get, the more ships they send. Which makes us look more threatening, which makes them send even more ships. It's a feedback loop, Susan added. Each side's defensive actions make the other side more frightened. Kate looked at her tactical display again. The number of alien ships had doubled in just the past hour. At this rate, there would be thousands of them within a few days. Admiral, her communications officer reported, we're receiving a transmission from an unknown source. It's in broken English. Put it through. A strange musical voice came over the speakers. Human vessels, this is Mediator Yelesa of the Neutral Council. We wish to speak with your leaders to prevent misunderstandings. Kate exchanged glances with her officers. This was the first time any alien had actually tried to communicate with them. This is Admiral Kate Stone of the Human Federation. We're willing to talk. Excellent. However, any movement by your ships will be interpreted as aggressive action. By the Empire forces, you must remain exactly where you are. Kate looked around her bridge. They were essentially prisoners, surrounded by a growing alien fleet that thought they were planning to conquer the galaxy, and now their only hope for escape was a diplomatic conversation with aliens they had never met before. Understood, Mediator. We'll wait for your instructions. As she closed the communication channel, Kate couldn't help but wonder how a simple research mission had turned into the most dangerous first contact situation in human history, and whether any of them would survive long enough to explain what had really happened.